Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the PC Elitist. My name is Woodsie, and today I wanted to talk to you all about The Last of Us. The reason I want to talk about The Last of Us is because there's probably different things in your life that's kind of that's within your interest bubble, but you don't really care too much about them. There's something that lots of people like, but they don't interest you in any particular way. And then a new sequel or a television show gets created, and suddenly everyone is talking about this IP or this thing, and you realize kind of how annoyed you are at the kind of overrated nature of the thing. And that happens a lot, I think, in various arenas or for various reasons or products or, companies that do something. Like Apple does something and everyone like screams yay when like some other company has been doing it for a long time. In this case, The Last of Us is a franchise I care very little about, but I can tell you this: I never respected it very much as a game, and now that the show is out, everyone is heralding it as this great show. In fact, my cousin, who may or may not see this video, I don't know, I'll probably send it to him just out of spite. He always had a very large poster in his room of The Last of Us, and I would always joke to him like that's not really a video game. Now I was being sarcastic, of course it's a video game, but my argument and my point of this video and the reason I don't have a lot of respect for the franchise or the show is that, or the game. I haven't seen the show. I don't really care to watch it. But the reason I don't care for the game, which I have not technically played, I've played, I think, a few minutes of it at someone's house, but I've seen lots and lots of footage of it. And if you have enough video game experience under your belt like I have, I actually don't need to play it to understand the mechanics and how it plays and yada, yada, yada. The issue I have with the game as a whole is this idea that I'm forwarding this idea of video game language. Every medium has a language to it. So cinema has a language. Video games have a language. Books have a certain language. It's certain things that the written word uses particular tricks and styles for the reader that are like kind of unique to those mediums. Video games has it, books have it, and movies have it. And the problem I have with The Last of Us is that the reason it's popular, I don't believe has anything to do with the gameplay. So when I heard that there was a show coming out and people were saying, oh, this is probably going to be one of the better adaptations from a video game, I thought, well, sure. I mean, the game is a show. It's more of a show than it is a game, in my mind. This is my argument. Agree or disagree. My argument is this, that the reason I don't respect the franchise as a game is that its appeal is that it borrows more language, far more language, I think, of successful movies than it does any kind of good game mechanics. I think the game mechanics are pretty, I would call them boring or just kind of run-of-the-mill game mechanics when the gameplay actually occurs. And what people kind of latch onto is that, one, it looks great. When it came out years ago, I mean, it was out, I don't know how many years ago, but it looks great. It's animated well. Visual presentation top-notch, especially the scenes that were small movies and small, like its own movie, is that the appeal is all in the borrowing of cinematic language. And then when it gets down to the actual video game language, where, okay, now you are playing, there isn't much there. It's kind of a very run-of-the-mill standard cover shooter with some, making sure with some resource management involved, some scavenging, and then the game is the atmosphere. The whole presentation is this wonderful atmosphere, and that it does that all very well, and it looks good on a big screen. That's kind of the trick, isn't it? That no one's gonna walk through Best Buy and see Factorio playing on a large screen and going, my God, what is that game? No one does that. But you throw The Last of Us up there and people stop, people watch. So I think it's the kind of overrated nature of the thing that bothers me, that people really latch on to this video game as kind of top tier gaming, and I really see it as middling. It's a good show. Literally, I've watched people who have pieced together all the video scenes together with just small amounts of gameplay, and called it The Last of Us the movie. And I've seen more gameplay than what was in these videos, where they people string it together and make a movie out of it. But that's really it. I mean, it's pretty close to what you're getting, which is the reason why I would never bother to play it, is because I've seen what the game is, and the game is, look how beautiful we shot this show. In contrast, because I don't want to say that it's not using video game language without giving an example of video game language. So one of the great aspects of video game language is, I would give two examples. Almost the entire game of the original Half-Life is all amazing video game language. Having the G-Man there, only there for you to notice him. There's a few times where they put him right front and center, you have to see him, but he's in far more places if you're paying attention. The G-Man becomes important because the player noticed him. There's one shot in Half-Life where you come up the stairs, he's literally standing right in a door, he walks into frame, and he's looking through the window of the door and then walks away. It's very obvious, there's the G-Man. But there's a bunch of other places he's in, if you're not paying attention, that he's around. Now, he's important to the whole story, and it's dependent on the player to pay attention to his atmosphere, to the world around him, in order to notice him. That's the mixture. That's the great mix of mechanics, game presentation, that marriage of the storytelling with the player's actions. By the end of the game, the G-Man is important only because you happen to notice him when you needed to. And then he's kind of the capstone of the whole game. There's a lot of examples in Half-Life that your movement through the world, you're kind of absorbing the story. You're not really there's no time in Half-Life where you're kind of taken out of your character and shown the story. You're absorbing the story as you go through. So there's Half-Life would be a great breakdown to go every time the story is told to you in some way, how it's all done through a game, especially even the beginning. Just go to the beginning of the game. You're told to do this experiment. Now you feel the impact. The whole beginning of Half-Life, you feel the impact of that story, of the mistake, of the great event that launches all these creatures, because you were directly involved in doing the experiment. If the whole game setup the whole front end of that game would not feel as good if you just watched a video of Gordon Freeman pushing the crystal into the beam. If you just watched it happen and then the game started you there, the explosion happens, and then it would feel totally different. To me, that's The Last of Us. Take the whole beginning of Half-Life and make that a movie sequence, a cinematic sequence, and then plop the player in right as the explosion happens, and he has his visions of the other dimensions, and then comes back and he has to escape the chamber, it would feel totally different. To me, that's what The Last of Us does. It just does it in such a pretty way that for some reason, like, all that gets ignored. That this isn't actually great gameplay. This is just a really pretty novel, like, kind of visual novel that you're playing. That's my thesis. I was actually going to use Super Metroid as my example when I started this video, because I felt like as a kid, the mother brain fight was telling you so much. And I'm not going to go into it because I don't want this video to go on too long, but the mother brain fight was a great mixture of kind of showing you things and you doing things, and in the kind of this perfect cohesive way where the player feels very involved even though you're not directly doing everything you're seeing. It's kind of amazing. It was kind of an amazing thing at the time. But that's game language. That's video game language. The Last of Us, ultimately my thesis is that my problem with it, like, really I don't care that much about it, but we're in this time right now where everyone's talking about The Last of Us. But my issue is that my thesis is that it borrows too much cinematic language to get by in order to say it's a good game. Even that it's great. Maybe it's okay. I don't know. I don't care that much. But it's certainly not great as a game. As an experience, maybe it's something different. But it's more of a cinematic experience than it is anything else. And that's my take on it. If you have another opinion, please let me know. Thank you for watching this video. Do anything to the video, and it helps me out. I like seeing it. It's fun. Anyway, I'll see you guys on the next one.